All right, so what I wanted to do is kind of give you some space and some time to introduce your channel so people, if they don't know you, what are you about and what do you do?
I'm Megan Lee, and I have the Noob Reviews. And my channel right now is just me reviewing comic books. I've gone way back. I started with Marvel and DC, and I've gone back to like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, a little bit into the 90s and 2000s, but it kind of stops there. So I'm reviewing those. I'm starting to get into indie comics and support independent comic creators and do indie comic reviews once a week as well. And I also am finding a love for European comics, so I love to review those also. Just finding things that feel like they've been lost or forgotten, compared to the modern Marvel DC, and then finding new things. Oh yeah, from my show, the name of my show is The Noob Reviews. Sorry. And it's all from the perspective of someone who literally knows nothing.
And they're wonderful to watch. I hope you enjoy the Noob Review's take on why she loves Tolkien.
So for me, Tolkien was something, actually, because I was homeschooled. So it was something my mom had read, and she was getting my brother to read it. And then we were all really big readers. Partly because we were homeschooled, we didn't have a TV, so you read books. And so of course my brother's reading it, and I did pick up his copy, and I was like, he was probably around 10 at the time, so I was around 8. So honestly, it was kind of a little over my head. I kind of flipped through it, and then I found his copy of The Hobbit, and that one really, that one definitely caught me. It was a lot easier to read. It was quicker to get through, right? It wasn't so deep, I guess is the word. So heavy, It was just a lot easier to follow as an 8-year-old than Lord of the Rings. And then eventually, as I got older, I did get into the Lord of the Rings and read that for sure. My parents gave me a copy, actually, my own, and it was like all 3 volumes, and it's like this fat, and I've like duct taped it because it's falling apart, and yeah. Somehow it's some way he presents it, because like The Hobbit and like Rover Random, a lot of his books started as him telling stories to his kids, right? And so he's a storyteller. He's someone who he doesn't just write it down. He's someone who has told stories as a spoken word. So he has this extra spark to his writing, I think, because he has spoken the story out loud before. There's something more alive to it. And then of course, you have that whole world and all the languages and the maps and his drawings. He did his own art too. He drew lots of little pencil sketches and watercolor. And I don't know if you've heard of Father Christmas, Letters to Father Christmas, but he would write as Father Christmas to his kids, and they'd write back to him, and he always put in a little pencil drawing of the adventures that happened in the North Pole. So it was a mix of everything. Just the way Tolkien speaks to you, because a lot of kids' books, sometimes you feel like you're being talked down to as a kid when you're reading a book that's written for kids, and he didn't necessarily write for kids, but as a kid you were drawn into that fantasy world, and you never felt you were being talked down to, and it kind of was something you could grow with too, because things got deeper. You go from like The Hobbit and Rover Random into Unfinished Tales, which I've never finished, or Silmarillion, which I've never finished, and Lord of the Rings. And it just gets deeper and deeper, and there's more and more and more in it. You can grow with it. What character matters to me? Honestly, I know The Hobbit, and Lord of the Rings, they have so many characters and more well known, but like I go back to Rover Random all the time, and it's a funny little story. It's about a toy dog. Okay, it's about a toy dog. No, it's about a real dog who is made into a toy because he bit a wizard and ripped the wizard's trouser leg, and the wizard turns him into a little toy, but he can still move, and he's cursed and he has to go on an adventure. That one, I always go back to it, and it's not exactly the most smoothly written of all his works, because he basically took all the stories of Rover Random that he told his kids, put them into a book, and there's lots of gaps where things would happen and Tolkien would say, well, this is not important, but there is a gap of so many weeks, nothing really happened, and now we're going to go off into, back to the moon world where Rover Random is, and you're like, oh, okay. It's not super finished, but I love Rover Random because he's just this silly little dog who starts super innocent, super silly, and he kind of grows up, and he loses his boy, and then he finds his boy again. It's like a lost and found story, but there's a lot of adventure in the middle. And my toys as a kid were like always very precious to me, and I always used to pretend that my toys would come alive. So it was kind of like an opposite. With Rover Random became a toy, and with me, my toys would like come alive. Okay, so the cartoon one was so long ago, I can't even remember. I haven't listened to all the BBC plays, so I can't really speak on those. Like, I would probably say the Peter Jackson movies, even though he did change things, I feel like I liked The Hobbit, but I feel like the Lord of the Rings trilogy was probably the best. Although I do live more in the books, for sure. It's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate. I know. I'm probably never gonna watch that. I think you can make a fantasy film, you can be inspired by Tolkien, but you can't pretend that. Yeah, I can't even find my words right now because it upsets me, and I'm not even as big a fan as a lot of people out there. Like, I don't live and breathe it, but it's kind of upsetting. Go make your own movie show inspired by elves are cool characters and hobbits and everything, but you can't use. I don't think they should use. No, don't use Tolkien's name. It's upsetting.
As ever, this is Salty Texas Sea. I am Corey DB. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you've seen and heard, please hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you on board. That way you know, and we have things like live streams, which we are going to be doing every Tuesday evening. Take care. I hope you're having a great 2022.